The Horizon Explorer drifted through the dark edges of known space, its silver hull reflecting the distant stars. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the main screen display an unusual energy signature coming from the nebula ahead. He had been in space for 15 years, but he had never seen readings like these before. "Run another scan," Jake said to the sensor operator. "Make sure those numbers are correct." The young officer nodded and worked the controls. "Confirmed, sir. The energy output is off the charts. It doesn't match any natural phenomenon in our database." Lisa Chen, the ship's captain, walked over to stand beside Jake. She was a veteran of deep space exploration, and her instincts told her something was wrong. "We should report this to command before investigating further." Jake agreed, but before he could give the order, the main screen flickered. A massive ship appeared directly in front of them, emerging from what seemed like empty space. It was 3 times the size of the Horizon Explorer, with dark green plating and strange geometric patterns across its surface. "Battle stations," Lisa ordered immediately. The alarm sounded throughout the ship and the crew rushed to their positions. The alien vessel made no attempt to communicate. Instead, it moved closer, positioning itself above the human ship. Jake tried to open a channel, sending standard greeting protocols in multiple languages and mathematical sequences. There was no response. "They're scanning us," the sensor operator reported. "Full spectrum analysis. They're looking at everything from our hull composition to our biological signatures." Lisa activated the ship-wide intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. We have made contact with an unknown alien species. Remain calm and follow emergency protocols." In the medical bay, Corporal Ryan Wade was organizing supplies when the alarm went off. He was a combat medic, trained to handle injuries in dangerous situations. At 28 years old, he had seen action during the border conflicts with pirates, but he had never encountered actual aliens before. He quickly checked his equipment and waited for orders. On the bridge, a voice finally came through the speakers. It was harsh and cold, translated by the ship's computer into English. "You are in Velcon territory. Your species has no authorization to be here. You will be eliminated." Jake's hands gripped the edge of his console. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the human vessel Horizon Explorer. We mean no harm. We are on a peaceful exploration mission. We did not know this space was claimed." "Your ignorance is irrelevant," the voice replied. "The Velcon Empire does not tolerate contamination of our space by primitive species. Your presence ends now," Lisa quickly spoke up. "We can leave immediately. There's no need for conflict. We'll mark this region as restricted and inform our government." There was a long pause. Then the alien voice spoke again. "You will not leave. You will serve as an example. The Velcon way is efficient. We do not destroy ships when biology can do the work." Before anyone could respond, 3 small objects launched from the alien vessel. They attached themselves to the Horizon Explorer's hull with magnetic locks. Jake ordered evasive maneuvers, but it was too late. The objects began releasing a fine mist that seeped into the ship's ventilation system. "Seal all sections," Lisa commanded. "Cut off air circulation." But the alien technology was too advanced. The mist spread through the entire ship within seconds. Jake felt a strange tingling sensation in his lungs. Around him, crew members began to collapse. The sensor operator fell forward onto his console. The tactical officer slumped in her chair. Lisa grabbed the armrest for support, her legs giving out beneath her. Jake tried to reach for the emergency beacon, but his arms wouldn't respond. He fell to his knees, then onto his side. His vision blurred, and he could see other crew members lying motionless on the floor. The last thing he heard before losing consciousness was the alien voice speaking again. "The neurotoxin is highly effective. Death will occur in approximately 6 hours. This is the fate of all who enter Velcon space without permission." Throughout the ship, 47 crew members lay unconscious, their bodies slowly shutting down. The toxin was designed to paralyze the nervous system first, then stop the heart and lungs. It was a weapon the Velcons had perfected over centuries, used to conquer dozens of worlds without firing a single shot. In the medical bay, Ryan felt the tingling sensation moments after everyone else. He recognized it immediately as a foreign substance in his bloodstream. His medical training kicked in, and he tried to reach the emergency antidote cabinet. But his legs buckled and he crashed into a medical table. The toxin spread through his body rapidly. He gasped for air, feeling his chest tighten. His heart rate slowed dramatically. He should have lost consciousness like the others, but something was different. Something was wrong, or perhaps something was right. Ryan's body began to react in an unexpected way. Instead of shutting down, his cells started fighting back. The toxin was being absorbed, but not in the way the Velkhans intended. Deep in his DNA, something ancient and dormant woke up. A genetic sequence that human scientists had theorized about but never observed began to activate. His veins started to glow with a faint blue light beneath his skin. The temperature of his body spiked and sweat poured from his forehead. Ryan clutched his chest, feeling like his entire body was on fire. The pain was intense, worse than anything he had ever experienced. He wanted to scream, but his throat was too tight. On the alien vessel, the Velkhans watched their monitors with satisfaction. All life signs on the human ship were fading. The mission was successful. High Commander Zethris, the leader of the Velkhan fleet in this sector, observed the data with cold efficiency. "The humans are weak," Zethris said to his officers. "Like all the others we have encountered. Their biology offers no resistance to our methods. We will report this species as eliminated and continue our patrol." But one of the junior officers noticed something unusual. "Commander, there is one human whose vital signs are not following the expected pattern. His heart rate is increasing instead of decreasing. His body temperature is rising significantly." Zethris moved to examine the readings himself. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he studied the data. "This is impossible. The neurotoxin has never failed. Not in 300 years of use." On the Horizon Explorer, Ryan forced himself to his knees. The blue glow in his veins was getting brighter. His hands were shaking, but he could move them. He could feel strength returning to his muscles, but it was different. Everything felt different. His senses were sharper. He could hear the hum of the ship's engines from 3 decks away. He could smell the chemical composition of the air with perfect clarity. He stood up slowly, unsteadily. His reflection in a medical cabinet showed him something that made his blood run cold. His eyes had changed. They were no longer the brown they had been his entire life. They were silver, glowing with an inner light. Ryan looked down at his hands. They looked the same, but he could feel they were stronger. Much stronger. He tried to grip the edge of the medical table, and his fingers dented the metal without effort. "What's happening to me?" he whispered to the empty room. The Velkhans continued to watch, their confidence turning to concern. The human was not dying. He was changing, and that was something they had never seen before. Ryan stumbled through the medical bay, his body burning from the inside out. Every cell felt like it was being torn apart and rebuilt at the same time. He crashed into another table, knocking medical supplies onto the floor. His breathing came in ragged gasps, but each breath seemed to make him stronger instead of weaker. The pain was getting worse. He fell to his hands and knees, his fingers digging into the metal floor. To his shock, his fingertips left small dents in the hard surface. The blue glow in his veins spread across his arms and chest, creating patterns that looked almost like circuitry beneath his skin. "Help," he tried to call out, but his voice came out as a harsh whisper. He crawled toward the intercom panel on the wall, but halfway there his body seized up. Every muscle contracted at once, and he collapsed onto his back. His eyes stared at the ceiling as waves of agony rolled through him. On the Velkhan ship, High Commander Zethris ordered his crew to prepare another toxin. "Deploy the secondary compound. If the first one failed, we will try another. This human cannot be allowed to survive." But even as he gave the order, Zethris felt a strange emotion he rarely experienced. It was uncertainty, perhaps even fear. In 3 centuries of using biological weapons, the Velkhans had never encountered a species that could resist their toxins. Their entire empire was built on this advantage. If one human could survive, what did that mean for their future? 12 hours passed. The Velkhan ship remained in position, watching and waiting. They had deployed 3 more toxins, each one more deadly than the last, but they did not attack again. They wanted to observe. They needed to understand what was happening to the human. During those 12 hours, Ryan's body underwent a complete transformation. His DNA rewrote itself, incorporating the alien toxins and using them as fuel for evolution. His immune system learned at an impossible rate, creating defenses against compounds it had never encountered before. His muscles became denser, his bones harder, his reflexes faster. His brain formed new neural pathways, expanding his cognitive abilities far beyond normal human limits. When Ryan finally opened his eyes, he felt different. The pain was gone, replaced by a sense of power he had never known. He sat up slowly, looking around the medical bay. His vision was incredibly sharp. He could see individual dust particles floating in the air. He could hear the heartbeats of his unconscious crewmates throughout the ship. He stood and walked to a mirror. His appearance had changed dramatically. The silver glow in his eyes was permanent now. His skin had taken on a faint metallic sheen. He looked at his hands again and clenched them into fists. He could feel the strength there, waiting to be used. Ryan checked on the other crew members in the medical bay. They were still alive, but barely. Their vital signs were weak. He tried to wake them, but they wouldn't respond to his voice or touch. He realized with growing horror that he was the only one still conscious on the entire ship. He made his way to the bridge, moving through the dark corridors. The emergency lights cast red shadows everywhere. He found Captain Lisa Chen slumped in her command chair, along with Commander Jake Morrison and the rest of the bridge crew. All of them were breathing, but they seemed trapped in some kind of deep coma. Ryan activated the communication console. He needed to call for help. His fingers moved across the controls with surprising speed and precision. He sent out a distress signal on all emergency channels, providing their coordinates and a brief description of what had happened. "This is Corporal Ryan Wade of the Horizon Explorer. We have been attacked by an unknown alien species using biological weapons. Entire crew is incapacitated except for me. Requesting immediate assistance. Hostile vessel still in the area." He repeated the message several times, then sat down to wait. The Velcon ship was still visible through the main view screen, hanging in space like a predator watching wounded prey. 15 hours after the first attack, a human ship arrived. It was the Pathfinder, the Horizon Explorer's sister vessel. Commander Kate Sullivan led a boarding team across to the damaged ship. She had received Ryan's distress call and rushed to the location as fast as possible. Kate and her team entered the Horizon Explorer carefully, their weapons ready. They found the unconscious crew members first, checking vital signs and starting emergency medical treatment. Then they heard movement from the bridge and rushed toward it. Ryan turned when he heard them coming. Kate stopped in the doorway, her weapon raised. For a moment she didn't recognize him. The silver eyes and strange glow made him look alien, but then she saw his name tag and uniform. "Ryan?" she asked carefully. "Ryan Wade?" "It's me," Ryan said. His voice sounded different, deeper and more resonant. "I know I look strange. Something happened when the aliens attacked. The toxin they used, it changed me." Kate lowered her weapon slowly. She had known Ryan for years. They had served together on another ship before he transferred to the Horizon Explorer. "What kind of change are you talking about?" Ryan held up his hand and squeezed it into a fist. The metal railing beside him bent slightly under the pressure of his grip, even though he wasn't touching it. Kate's eyes widened. "I don't understand what's happening to me," Ryan admitted. "But I'm stronger now, faster. I can see and hear things I couldn't before. The toxin that knocked out everyone else, it did something different to me." Kate activated her comm device. "Medical team, get up here now. We have a situation." She looked back at Ryan. "We need to get you and everyone else back to the Pathfinder. We need to run tests and figure out what happened." Ryan nodded. "The alien ship is still here. They're watching us. I don't think they expected me to survive." As if responding to his words, the Velcon vessel suddenly moved. It came closer to both human ships, its weapon ports opening. Kate grabbed Ryan's arm to pull him toward the exit, but he didn't move. "We need to go now," Kate said urgently. "No," Ryan replied. "If we run, they'll just follow us. They'll attack again, and next time they might succeed in killing everyone." He turned to face her fully. "I can feel it, Kate. Whatever they did to me, it made me immune to their weapons. I need to prove that to them. I need to make them afraid." "That's crazy," Kate said. "You're one person. That ship could destroy us all." Ryan walked past her toward the airlock. "Then let's find out what I can really do." Kate followed him, arguing the whole way, but Ryan's mind was made up. When they reached the Pathfinder, he demanded to be taken to the outer hull. Kate tried to stop him, but the medical team was already examining his strange condition. Dr. Ben Carter, the ship's chief medical officer, ran scan after scan, his expression growing more amazed with each result. "This is impossible," Ben muttered. "His DNA is actively rewriting itself. His cells are evolving in real time. I've never seen anything like this in any species, human or alien." The Velcon ship fired a warning shot across the Pathfinder's bow. Then the cold voice came through the communication system again. You will surrender the changed human to us. We must study this anomaly. If you refuse, we will destroy both vessels. Kate looked at Ryan. What do you want to do? Ryan felt a strange calm settle over him. His enhanced senses could detect the energy building in the Velcon ship's weapons. He could almost see the biological compounds they were preparing to deploy. And he knew somehow that none of it would hurt him. Let them try, Ryan said quietly. Open the airlock. Kate hesitated, but something in Ryan's silver eyes made her trust him. She gave the order. The outer airlock opened, exposing Ryan to the vacuum of space. The Velcons launched their attack immediately. A massive cloud of crimson toxins sprayed toward the Pathfinder, enough poison to kill every living thing on a small planet. Kate watched in horror as the deadly mist surrounded Ryan's unprotected body, but Ryan didn't die. Instead, he breathed in the toxin like it was fresh air. The red cloud began to swirl around him, pulled toward his body like water down a drain. He was absorbing it, processing it, making it part of himself. Within minutes, the entire payload had disappeared, consumed by Ryan's impossible biology. On the Velcon ship, High Commander Zethris stared at his monitors in disbelief. For the first time in his long life, he felt genuine fear. The Velcons had built their empire on biological superiority. They had weapons that could destroy any species. But standing before them was a single human who had just consumed enough toxin to wipe out millions, and he was completely unharmed. Zethris gave the order to retreat. The Velcon ship turned and fled into deep space, leaving the two human vessels behind. On the Pathfinder, Kate and her crew watched in stunned silence as Ryan floated back toward the airlock, his body glowing brighter than ever before. When they pulled him back inside, Ryan collapsed. The strain had been too much, but he was alive, and he had just proven something terrifying to both humans and aliens alike. The toxin meant to kill humanity had instead created something new, something unstoppable. The Velcon ship disappeared into the darkness of space, but High Commander Zethris knew this was far from over. He immediately sent an urgent message to the Velcon homeworld, his clawed hands working the controls with barely controlled panic. This is Zethris to the Velcon Council. I am reporting a critical threat to the Empire. We have encountered a human who is immune to all our biological weapons. I repeat, all our weapons. This individual absorbed a full planetary extinction dose and survived. I am requesting immediate authorization to deploy the Purge Fleet. The response came back within an hour. The Council had convened an emergency session, something that had not happened in over 50 years. The message was clear and direct. The Purge Fleet was authorized. 300 warships would be dispatched to human space immediately. The mission was simple: find and eliminate this human, and then eradicate the entire species before they could study and replicate this immunity. On the Pathfinder, Ryan woke up in the medical bay. His body ached, but it was different from normal pain. It felt like growing pains, like his cells were still adjusting to their new form. Dr. Ben Carter sat beside him, reviewing data on a tablet. How long was I out? Ryan asked. 6 hours, Ben replied. Long enough for me to run every test I could think of. Ryan, what you did out there should have killed you 100 times over. The amount of toxin you absorbed could have sterilized an entire continent. Your body not only survived it but processed it completely. There's no trace of the compound left in your system. Ryan sat up slowly. So what am I now? Am I still human? Ben considered the question carefully. Biologically, you're still human. But you're also something more. I found a genetic sequence in your DNA that I've never seen activated before. We call it the Hyperion sequence. Scientists have known about it for years, but it was always dormant. They thought it was leftover genetic code from our evolutionary past, something that no longer served a purpose. And now? Ryan asked. Now it's fully active and changing everything about you. Your immune system isn't just defending against threats anymore. It's learning from them, adapting, evolving. Every time you encounter a new toxin or biological agent, your body becomes stronger. You're essentially becoming immune to all forms of biological warfare. The door to the medical bay opened and Commander Kate Sullivan entered. She looked tired, but her expression was serious. Ryan, we need to talk. I just got word from Admiral Chris Hammond. The military wants you transferred to Earth immediately. They want to study you, maybe find a way to replicate your abilities. Ryan shook his head. I'm not going anywhere. Those aliens, the Velcons, they're going to come back. I could see it in how they left. They're scared, and scared people make dangerous decisions. Kate pulled up a chair and sat down. That's what I told the Admiral. He wasn't happy about it, but he agreed you should stay with the fleet for now. The crew from the Horizon Explorer is recovering. Captain Lisa Chen and Commander Jake Morrison are awake. They want to thank you for saving them. I didn't save them, Ryan said quietly. I just didn't die like I was supposed to. That's more than enough, Kate replied. 3 days later, Ryan's prediction came true. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet entering human space. 300 Velcon warships all heading toward the nearest human colonies. Admiral Hammond's Third Fleet moved to intercept, but they were outnumbered 5-1. The Admiral contacted the Pathfinder directly. His face appeared on the screen, his gray hair and weathered features showing the stress of the situation. Commander Sullivan, I need you to bring Corporal Wade to the flagship immediately. We have a plan, but it's going to require his cooperation. Kate brought Ryan to the meeting. The Admiral explained the situation quickly. The Velcons are targeting 17 of our colonies simultaneously. Each world has between 2 and 5 million people. We don't have enough ships to defend them all. Our only hope is you, Corporal. Ryan felt the weight of those words. What do you need me to do? We're going to load you onto a fast attack corvette with one of our best pilots, Lieutenant Nick Torres. You'll intercept the Velcon weapons before they reach the colonies. Based on what happened with the Pathfinder, we believe you can absorb their biological agents and neutralize them. That's a lot of colonies, Ryan said. Can I move fast enough to reach them all? That's why Nick will be with you. He's the fastest pilot in the fleet. Between your abilities and his flying, you might be able to save them. Ryan didn't hesitate. I'll do it. An hour later, Ryan was strapped into the passenger seat of a small corvette. Lieutenant Nick Torres sat in the pilot's chair, running through final checks. Nick was young, maybe 25, with dark hair and quick hands on the controls. I've heard about you, Nick said as they launched from the hangar. They're saying you're some kind of superhuman now. I'm just trying to help, Ryan replied. Well, I hope you're as good as they say, because we're about to find out. They reached the first target colony, New Haven, with minutes to spare. The Velcon weapon was already descending through the atmosphere, a massive cloud of crimson toxins spreading across the sky. 4 million people looked up in terror as death approached from above. Nick flew the Corvette directly into the toxic cloud. You ready for this? Ryan opened the side hatch, exposing himself to the full force of the weapon. The crimson mist rushed into the ship and Ryan breathed it in. His body immediately began absorbing the toxin, pulling it out of the air like a magnet. The cloud started to shrink, drawn toward Ryan's impossible biology. It's working, Nick shouted over the rush of wind. Keep going. Ryan focused all his concentration on the task. He could feel the toxin entering his body, could sense his cells breaking it down and learning from it. The process was faster than before. His evolution was accelerating. Within 20 minutes, the entire payload had been absorbed, and the sky over New Haven cleared. 1 down, 16 to go, Nick said, already plotting a course to the next colony. They raced across space, jumping from world to world. At each location, Ryan repeated the process. He absorbed the biological weapons, neutralized them, saved millions of lives. But with each intervention, he could feel himself changing more. His skin took on more metallic patterns. His eyes glowed brighter. His thoughts became faster, more analytical, less emotional. Dr. Ben Carter monitored his vital signs remotely from the Pathfinder. After the 9th colony, he contacted them directly. Ryan, you need to stop. Your cellular structure is reaching a critical point. If you absorb much more, you might not be human anymore. You could become something else entirely. Ryan heard the warning, but he couldn't stop. There were still 8 colonies under threat. 8 worlds full of innocent people who would die if he gave up. I can handle it, Doc, just a few more. Emma Price, a neurologist who had been brought in to study Ryan's condition, spoke up. She had been his friend since their academy days, one of the few people who still saw him as human instead of a weapon. Ryan, please listen to Ben. We don't know what will happen if you push too far. You could lose yourself completely. I'll take that risk, Ryan said firmly. Nick glanced over at him. You sure about this? Because I'm looking at you right now, and you don't look much like the guy I met a few hours ago. Ryan caught his reflection in the cockpit glass. Nick was right. The silver patterns on his skin had spread across most of his body. His eyes were completely metallic now, with no trace of white or brown left. He looked alien, inhuman, but he couldn't stop. Not while people were dying. They continued to the next colony and the next and the next. Each time Ryan absorbed the toxin, each time he changed a little more. By the time they reached the 17th and final colony, Ryan barely looked human anymore. His skin was covered in silver patterns that glowed with internal light. His movements had become impossibly fast and precise. When he spoke, his voice had a strange harmonic quality that didn't sound entirely natural. The last weapon was the largest. The Velkhans had saved their most powerful toxin for this colony, perhaps hoping to overwhelm Ryan. The cloud was dark purple instead of red, and sensors showed it contained enough poison to kill 20 billion people. "That's too much," Nick said, staring at the readings. "Even for you." Ryan didn't answer. He opened the hatch and exposed himself to the massive cloud. The toxin hit him like a physical force, and for a moment he thought Ben had been right. This was too much. His body screamed in protest as it tried to process the enormous amount of deadly compounds. But then something new happened. Instead of just absorbing the toxin, Ryan's body began to break it down into harmless elements. He wasn't just neutralizing the weapon anymore. He was completely destroying it at a molecular level. The purple cloud didn't just shrink, it disappeared, converted into nitrogen and oxygen that were safe to breathe. When it was over, Ryan collapsed in his seat. Nick immediately turned the Corvette around and headed back to the fleet at maximum speed. "Stay with me, buddy. We're almost done." Ryan could barely keep his eyes open. He had saved 17 colonies, but the cost had been enormous. He looked at his hands and barely recognized them. They looked like they were made of liquid metal now, constantly shifting and reforming. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out right. "What's happening to me?" he finally managed to ask. Nick didn't have an answer. None of them did. Ryan had become something beyond human. Under Ryan spent 3 days in the medical bay after saving the 17th colony. His body had stabilized, but he was no longer the man he used to be. The silver patterns covered most of his skin now, and his eyes glowed with constant metallic light. Dr. Ben Carter ran tests around the clock, trying to understand the extent of his transformation. Emma Price sat beside his bed during those 3 days, talking to him when he was awake, monitoring his brain activity when he slept. She noticed something disturbing in the neural scans. The emotional centers of his brain were becoming less active, while the logical and analytical areas were expanding rapidly. "Ryan, do you remember your family?" Emma asked during one of their sessions. Ryan thought about the question. He could recall the facts easily. His mother's name was Linda. His father was Gary. He had a younger sister named Kelly. But when he tried to feel something about these memories, there was only a vague sense of distance, like he was reading about someone else's life. "I remember them," he said carefully, "but it feels different now. Like I'm looking at them through thick glass." Emma made notes on her tablet. "That's what I was afraid of. Your transformation isn't just physical. It's affecting your emotions, your sense of self. You're becoming more efficient, more powerful, but less human in the ways that matter. Can you fix it?" Ryan asked. "I don't know," Emma admitted, "but I'm going to try." She developed a series of mental exercises designed to help Ryan maintain his emotional connections. They spent hours each day working through memories, trying to anchor his humanity before it slipped away completely. Sometimes it worked and Ryan would feel a flash of real emotion. Other times he felt nothing at all. Commander Kate Sullivan visited regularly, bringing news from the fleet. The Velkhans had retreated after losing all 17 attacks, but intelligence reports suggested they were regrouping. Admiral Hammond was preparing for a larger assault. On the 4th day, Ryan made a discovery that changed everything. He was lying in the medical bay, processing the latest toxin samples that Ben had given him for study, when he noticed something strange. The compounds contained encoded information. The Velkhans weren't just creating random poisons. They were building complex molecular structures that carried data. Ryan sat up quickly, startling the nurse who was checking his vitals. "I need to see Dr. Carter immediately." Ben arrived within minutes. Ryan explained what he had found. The toxins are more than just weapons. They're like biological computer programs. They contain instructions that tell them how to attack specific genetic markers. And I can read those instructions now? Ben's eyes widened. "Can you trace them back to their source?" "I think so," Ryan said. "Every compound has a signature, a unique pattern that identifies where it was made. If I can analyze enough samples, I can map out the Velcon production facilities, maybe even find their homeworld. Kate was called in immediately. She listened to Ryan's explanation, then contacted Admiral Hammond. The Admiral saw the potential right away. If they could locate the Velcon biological weapons facilities, they could end the threat permanently. How much time do you need? Kate asked Ryan. Give me access to all the toxin samples we've collected. I can have a map ready in 48 hours. Ryan worked without stopping for 2 full days. Emma stayed with him, making sure he ate and rested occasionally, but mostly she just watched him work. His mind processed information at an incredible rate, analyzing molecular structures faster than any computer. The silver patterns on his skin glowed brighter when he concentrated, pulsing with internal light. By the end of the 2nd day, he had it. A complete map of Velcon space, showing the locations of 12 major weapons facilities and 1 central production complex on their homeworld, Velcros Prime. Ryan presented the data to Admiral Hammond and Kate in a secure briefing room. This is the heart of their operation, Ryan said, pointing to the central facility on the holographic display. The Central Synthesis Complex. Every biological weapon they create is designed there first, then distributed to the other facilities for mass production. If we destroy it, we cripple their entire military capability. Admiral Hammond studied the map carefully. It's deep in Velcon territory, protected by orbital defenses and hundreds of ships. We don't have the firepower to fight our way in. Then we don't fight, Ryan said. We sneak in. Kate looked at him with concern. You're talking about an infiltration mission into the heart of enemy space. That's a suicide run. Not for me, Ryan replied. I'm immune to their weapons, and I have a plan that's bigger than just destroying the facility. He explained his idea. During his analysis of the toxin samples, Ryan had learned enough about Velcon biology to create a counteragent. It wasn't a weapon, but a vaccine. If released into the atmosphere of Velcros Prime, it would spread across the planet and render every Velcon immune to their own biological weapons. The compound would then spread through Velcon space via their own ships, eventually reaching every world they had conquered. You're talking about disarming their entire empire, Hammond said slowly, making their weapons useless. Exactly, Ryan confirmed. But there's a cost. To produce enough counteragent to affect an entire planet, I'll need to use my own cellular mass as the base material. I'll be burning myself out, converting my enhanced cells into the vaccine. Emma stood up abruptly. No, absolutely not. That could kill you, Ryan. It might, Ryan agreed. But it's the only way to end this permanently. The Velcons built their empire on biological superiority. If we take that away, they'll have no choice but to negotiate peace. Kate and Hammond exchanged looks. Finally, the Admiral nodded. I'll authorize the mission. But you'll need a team. I'm assigning Commander Sullivan to lead it, along with a Special Forces unit. Kate started to protest, but Hammond cut her off. This isn't up for discussion, Commander. If we're going to attempt something this dangerous, I want my best people involved. The team was assembled within a week. Kate brought her tactical officer, Sophie Grant, who was an expert in electronic warfare. Admiral Hammond assigned Sergeant Alex Drake and his Special Forces squad, 10 of the toughest soldiers in the fleet. They would use a captured Velcon ship to infiltrate enemy space, avoiding detection until they reached Velcros Prime. The night before they departed, Emma found Ryan standing alone in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. She walked up beside him quietly. Are you scared? She asked. Ryan thought about the question. He should have been terrified. This mission would probably end with his death, but all he felt was a calm certainty, a logical understanding of what needed to be done. The emotional fear he should have experienced just wasn't there anymore. I can't feel scared, he said finally. I can't feel much of anything anymore, Emma. I remember what it was like to have emotions, but I can't actually experience them. It's like trying to remember a dream after you wake up. Emma took his hand. Even through the metallic texture of his skin, she could feel warmth there. You're still Ryan. You're still the person who chose to save those colonies even when it meant changing yourself forever. That choice came from somewhere, from whatever part of you is still human. I hope you're right, Ryan said, because I'm about to make another choice that might erase what's left of me. The journey to Velcros Prime took 3 weeks. They traveled in the captured Velcon ship, using its identification codes to pass through enemy checkpoints. Sophie managed to hack into Velcon communication networks, feeding them false information about their destination and purpose. Sergeant Drake and his team trained constantly, preparing for every possible scenario. Ryan spent most of the journey alone, working on the counteragent in the ship's small laboratory. His body was already beginning the process of converting his enhanced cells into the vaccine compound. He could feel himself getting weaker but also more focused. Every day he became a little less human and a little more like a living weapon designed for one specific purpose. Kate checked on him regularly, worried about his deteriorating condition. "Are you sure you can still do this?" she asked one evening. "I have to," Ryan replied. "I'm the only one who can." When they finally reached Velcros Prime, the team was shocked by what they saw. The planet was beautiful, covered in green oceans and purple vegetation. Cities sprawled across multiple continents, home to billions of Velcons. Orbital platforms surrounded the world, each one capable of destroying any approaching ship. "The central synthesis complex is on the main continent," Sophie reported, studying her scanner. "It's underground, probably to protect it from orbital strikes." Alex looked at the defensive network and whistled. "Getting past those platforms is going to be tough." "We won't have to," Kate said. "We'll land at a civilian spaceport and go in through the underground transit system. Sophie's fake credentials should get us through security." The plan worked better than expected. They landed without incident and made their way into the city. Ryan wore a disguise that covered his silver skin and glowing eyes, but he could feel curious stares from passing Velcons. They could sense something was different about him, even if they couldn't identify what. The team reached the central synthesis complex's outer perimeter just after sunset. Alex and his squad took point, eliminating CC. The alarm echoed through the central synthesis complex like a scream. Red lights flashed across every surface, and heavy doors began sliding shut throughout the facility. Velcon security forces rushed toward the central reactor chamber from all directions. Sergeant Alex Drake immediately positioned his squad at the entrance. "We'll hold them off." "Do what you need to do, Corporal." Ryan nodded and turned back to the control panel. His fingers moved rapidly across the interface, inputting commands that would release the counteragent into the facility's main distribution system. From there, it would spread into the atmosphere and eventually across the entire planet. Kate stayed beside him, her weapon ready. "How long will this take?" 5 minutes to start the sequence, Ryan said. "But I need to stay connected to the system to produce enough compound. That will take at least 20 minutes. "Then we hold for 20 minutes, Kate said firmly. The first wave of Velcon soldiers arrived moments later. They came around the corner in formation, their weapons raised. Alex and his team opened fire, dropping the front ranks immediately. But more kept coming, pouring through the corridors in greater numbers. Sophie worked frantically at a secondary terminal, trying to lock doors and create barriers to slow down the enemy reinforcements. "I've sealed 3 access corridors, but they're cutting through the doors. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they overwhelm us." Ryan felt the connection established between his body and the facility's systems. His cellular structure began breaking down, converting into the counter-agent compound at a molecular level. It was the most painful thing he had ever experienced, worse than the original toxin transformation. He felt like he was being dissolved from the inside out, but he couldn't stop. He watched the progress indicator on the screen climb slowly. 5%, 10%. Each percentage point cost him part of himself. The silver patterns on his skin began to fade as his enhanced cells were consumed and converted. The firefight at the entrance intensified. One of Alex's soldiers went down with a wound to the shoulder. Another took a hit to the leg but kept fighting. They were outnumbered 20-1, but they held their ground with determination. "Kate, you need to get your people out now," Ryan said through gritted teeth. "This is taking too long. You won't make it if you stay." "We're not leaving without you," Kate replied, firing at a Velcon who tried to flank their position. 15%, 20%. Ryan's body was breaking down faster now. He looked at his hands and saw they were becoming translucent. He could see the bones beneath his skin, could watch his blood flowing through vessels that were slowly disappearing. High Commander Zethris arrived at the facility with his personal guard. He pushed through the chaos, trying to understand what was happening. When he saw the readings from the central reactor, his reptilian features went pale. "Stop them," Zethris ordered. "Whatever they're doing, stop them now. Use everything we have." The Velcons deployed heavy weapons, but Alex's squad had established a strong defensive position. They used the facility's own equipment as cover, hiding behind massive storage tanks and chemical processors. Every time the Velcons tried to advance, they were driven back by precise fire. 30%. 40%. Ryan's legs buckled and he fell to his knees. Only his hands remained on the control panel, maintaining the connection. Kate moved to help him, but he shook his head. "Don't touch me," he warned. "The conversion process is unstable. Physical contact could disrupt it." Emma's voice came through the communicator from the ship. She had been monitoring Ryan's vital signs remotely. "Ryan, your heart is failing. You need to stop this now." "Can't stop," Ryan managed to say. "Almost there. 50%. 60%. The counter-agent began flowing into the distribution system. Ryan could feel it spreading through the pipes that led to the surface. Within minutes, it would be released into the atmosphere above Velcros Prime. Within hours, it would cover the entire planet. Within days, it would spread across Velcon space. Alex took a hit to his armor, the impact knocking him back. He recovered quickly and kept firing, but his team was running low on ammunition. "We've got maybe 2 more minutes of ammo," he called out to Kate. "After that, it's hand-to-hand." Sophie succeeded in sealing one more corridor, buying them precious seconds. But her console sparked and went dead. "They've cut power to my terminal. I can't help anymore. 70%. 80%. Ryan's entire body was glowing now. Not with silver light, but with a soft blue radiance. He was being converted into pure energy, transformed into the vaccine that would save the galaxy from Velcon biological warfare. Zethris finally reached the reactor chamber. He saw Ryan at the control panel, saw what was happening, and understood. "No," the Velcon commander said in horror. "You're destroying everything we built. 3 centuries of advancement, gone." "You built it on death," Kate said, pointing her weapon at him. "You used your toxins to conquer and kill. That ends today, 90%. Ryan could barely see anymore. His vision was fading along with everything else. But he could still feel the progress, could sense the counter-agent spreading across the planet. It was working. The Velcons were being inoculated against their own weapons, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. "Please," Zethris said, his voice breaking. "You don't understand. Without our biological weapons, we have no defenses. The species we conquered will rise up against us. We'll be destroyed. Then you'll have to find a new way," Ryan said softly. "One that doesn't involve killing innocent people." 95%. 98%. 100%. The conversion was complete. The counter-agent flooded into the atmosphere, visible as a faint blue mist that spread rapidly across the sky. Every Velcon on the planet breathed it in, and their biology changed instantly. They were now immune to all the toxins their empire had created. The weapons they had relied on for centuries became completely harmless. Ryan fell forward, his body almost completely transparent now. Kate caught him before he hit the ground, no longer worried about disrupting the process. He weighed almost nothing, as if most of his physical form had already disappeared. "Get him to the ship now," Kate ordered. "Alex, we're pulling out." Sophie, lead the way. The team fought their way back through the facility. The Velcons were too confused and shocked to mount an effective pursuit. They had just lost their greatest advantage, and they knew it. Alex's squad carried their wounded, and Kate carried Ryan, who was barely conscious. They reached the captured Velcon ship and launched immediately. Sophie piloted them through the orbital defenses, which were in chaos as commanders tried to understand what had just happened. Every biological weapon platform was now useless. The Velcons had nothing left to fight with. As they escaped Velcros Prime, they could see the blue mist spreading across the entire planet. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, the death of an empire's power and the birth of a new era. Dr. Ben Carter and Emma were waiting when they arrived back at the Pathfinder. They rushed Ryan to the medical bay and began emergency treatment. For 3 hours, they worked to stabilize his failing body. His cellular structure had been so depleted by the conversion that he was barely alive. "He's not going to make it," Ben said quietly to Emma. "He gave too much. There's almost nothing left," but Emma refused to give up. She had developed an experimental treatment during the journey, something she hadn't told anyone about. It involved using samples of Ryan's original DNA, taken before his transformation, to help rebuild his cellular structure. It was dangerous and unproven, but it was his only chance. "We have to try," Emma insisted. They administered the treatment. For 6 hours, nothing happened. Ryan's vital signs continued to drop. His body remained translucent, barely visible on the medical bed. Kate stayed in the room the entire time, refusing to leave. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to change. Color started returning to Ryan's skin. His heartbeat, which had been barely detectable, grew stronger. His cellular structure began rebuilding itself, not into the silver-enhanced form he had become, but into something in between, a hybrid of his original human biology and the evolved version the toxin had created. 3 months passed. During that time, the galaxy changed dramatically. The Velcon Empire, unable to rely on biological warfare, sued for peace. The dozens of species they had conquered rose up, demanding freedom. Without their weapons, the Velcons had no choice but to negotiate. A galactic council formed, bringing together representatives from every known species. Humanity played a central role, no longer seen as a primitive upstart, but as the species that had saved the galaxy from biological tyranny. Admiral Hammond represented Earth at the first council meeting, and he told them about Ryan Wade, the human who had sacrificed everything to create peace. Ryan himself remained in recovery on the Pathfinder. His body had stabilized in its hybrid state. He retained some of his enhanced abilities. His strength and reflexes remained well above human normal, and he could still sense and neutralize biological threats. But his appearance had mostly returned to normal. The silver patterns were gone, replaced by faint blue lines that were only visible in certain light. His eyes were brown again, though they occasionally flashed with silver when he used his abilities. More importantly, his emotions had returned. The distance he had,